Today, we're going batty for basil. Welcome back to my channel, California Garden Goddess. I'm your hostess, Anna, and I live in Zone 10A, which is located in the beautiful foothills of the Angeles National Forest. Today is all about basil. I'm going to show you how to grow it from seeds, 2 quick and easy hacks to multiply your basil, and I'm also going to show you the best places to plant basil in your garden. Follow along with me as we explore the tasty world of basil. As you can see, basil comes in a variety of forms, but all of it is very tasty, and most of it's considered to be an annual, except for the Tulsi or holy basil. So with basil, this is one of the things that it's actually very, very easy to grow from cuttings, and you can also grow it from seed. So this is a great herb to add to your garden. So the first thing I'm going to show you today is how to plant your basil from seed. We have 2 different types of basil seed right here. I have the red Reuben basil and the Genovese basil. Now the red Reuben basil is a nice like purple color, which I find rather enjoyable. And the Genovese basil, that's the basil that most people are familiar with. So basil prefers a temperature for germination between 65 and 70. We're starting to get a little bit close to the upper end of that scale and above that here. So while it's a good idea to plant where you live indoors, you may be able to plant outdoors as well. Today I'm going to be planting seeds to be started indoors, and I'm just going to use this little tray here. So planting basil in trays is pretty easy. Just going to make a depression with your finger after filling your tray with potting mix. I used a mixture of potting mix, organic potting mix, along with some of my worm castings from my vermicomposting. So first I'm going to plant the basil Genovese, and we're just going to put 2 of these teeny tiny seeds, 2 or 3 of these teeny tiny seeds in each little depression. Okay, and then this side will be the red Reuben. I forgot to make labels ahead of time, something important that you might want to do. But the great thing about these 2 basils is that I will definitely be able to tell them apart. The red Reuben, I'll pop up a photo of it because I have some growing. It's a small still, but it's a nice purple basil, and you can get basil in either purple or green. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the top. Just going to go ahead and take these and pinch them together over the depression. So then you're good for your basil. Now I'm going to show you an even easier way to multiply your basil, much easier than seeds and faster too. Now I planted a couple types of basil from seed about 6 weeks ago, and they're taking a long time to get going. So I visited my local farm store at Cal Poly Pomona, and they had a bunch of beautiful basil. So my husband and I picked out a ton of different kinds, and there's one thing that I would have done differently if I had gone alone to buy my basil, and that would have been to buy basil that wasn't flowering. Now these flowers are really pretty, but once it starts flowering, you may not be able to do this hack that I'm going to show you. It's still possible, but it may not work as well if you just buy basil that hasn't flowered yet. So as you can see, these basil plants each have multiple different plants coming out, which means that each one of these was likely a seed that they planted. This one has 4, so there are 4 seeds in this one, and this one has like 5 seeds in this one, and they just basically keep them going. You don't need to thin your basil, but I can show you a quick and easy way to make tons more basil. So first we're going to try to divide the basil through division. So I'm going to take this one out. This is the purple Ruffles basil. This is one of my favorites because it has different colors. Usually they're purple, obviously, but a small percentage of plants would be like this one and have green and purple. So I really like that. And this is a nice and healthy plant. It's not blooming yet, so that's good. But let's see if we can divide this plant here. So as you can tell, the root system, these are pretty good roots. They're going to start circling a little bit, but that's why it's a good time to divide these. So I'm just going to separate it by hand and see that. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so this one, okay, this seems to be the biggest piece. Look, it came off all by itself right there. And then we have these guys as well. Now, you know what? These are a little bit harder to divide. So here, so we're going to divide this into 2 different plants. Still going to have one more plant than what we used to have, but I'm going to show you how we can divide this plant even further and make even more plants, even though we're just dividing it once. By the way, sorry for any squawking that you may hear. We have parrots that fly around above us, and I'll never know when they're going to fly overhead. I do love seeing them, but hearing them is a little bit of a different matter. They're kind of loud. Okay, so I'm going to show you close up exactly how to propagate your basil. Now that we've divided it, I popped it back in the container just for now until we put it in the ground. And I'm going to take cuttings of this or pinch it back, and it's going to do 2 things. It's going to make the original basil plant become more bushy and full and lush, full of leaves, which you want for your pestos and your salads. And then what we're going to do is take what we cut off and use that to propagate this basil plant. So we're going to have a bunch more basil plants than what you see right here. And that's after we already divided this plant into 2, right? So now we're just going to see how many basil plants we can get off this one little plant here. What do you think? How many do you think we're going to get? Let's go ahead and get started. Parts, if you cut this right here, it's going to branch off. Go ahead and cut right there. So cutting right above where 2 leaf nodes are, that's the best way to take these cuttings and also to pinch back your basil plant. It's going to get even bushier. So now we have 2. Okay, and I'm going to just see how many we can get here. Here's this one, 3. Oh, well, what about here? 4. Oops, that fell. I'll get that later. Okay, here's this one, 5. And then, let's see what we got here. Okay, anything else that we could take? Oh, here's this one. And let's do 6. Okay, so now our original basil doesn't look very impressive right now, but that's fine because we want it to cut it back anyway. It's going to get much bushier and fuller, and it's going to be great for adding to all of your summer dishes. So I wound up getting, let's count how many we got just from this one basil plant. 1, 2, 3, let's see, oops, 4. And then I'm gonna, strip the lower leaves off. If you have lower leaves, make sure you strip those off. You don't want anything in the water. So that was what, 5? No, 5. And here's number 6. Oops, 6. And then number 7. This is the last one. Wow. Okay. So we divided the plant in half, and then we made 7 cuttings. So we added 8 more potential plants to our lineup of basil. And this is one of my favorite types, the purple ruffles. So I'm really excited for this. And I'm going to just show you on fast forward how I just do the rest of these basil. And then we're going to show you the best places to plant basil in the ground and also in containers in your garden. out. This spot may look familiar to you, but this is where I planted my tomatoes. So basil can be planted about 4 to 8 inches apart. And I'm actually going to be planting some marigold seeds, maybe today, maybe a little bit later. But since I want to plant marigold seeds along with basil and by the tomatoes, I'm going to place fewer basil plants than I probably would have otherwise, because I want to have some room for the color and the pest repelling from the marigold as well as the basil. I really want to see my tomatoes get off to a great start. Okay, so now I'm just going to place my basil in an attractive way by my tomato plants. So I forgot to do something that will help the basil that is flowering right now. I'm going to go ahead and pinch off a lot of the flowers, because once the basil flowers, it's going to try to go to seed, and that means it might die off instead of producing tasty basil leaves for you to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and pinch off all of the flowers on the basil that's flowering right now. Now, basil flowers are edible. I've never actually eaten them, but I think I'm going to try them in a salad and see how they are. Okay, my hands smell amazing after doing all that collection, and now it's time to plant the basil. So that's the lovely moment where I hit my head really hard on the strawberry hanging basket. Not a fun moment. So as you can see, the tomatoes that we planted, it's been, I think about 5 days. You'll see this, you might see this sooner, but anyway, those tomatoes are doing great. Look at this Carmelo, already has a teeny tiny tomato. So that's great. And then, yeah, that's the Valentine tomatoes next. Yeah, they're doing great. And you see the basil interplanted with the tomatoes. All right, so I'm sure you saw that blooper where I hit my head, but thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell to be notified of all my new gardening, do-it-yourself, as well as garden tours. Thanks and have a good day. Bye.